All right, let's get right into this because the brand new footage for Avengers Doomsday just dropped a massive, mind-bending revelation on us. If you thought you had the multiverse saga totally figured out, you're definitely going to want to stick around for this explainer. We've been staring at the scattered pieces of this puzzle for literally years, but this new trailer, it just handed us the box cover. We're talking about a secret, absolutely devastating connection between Loki, Captain America, and the rise of Doctor Doom that changes absolutely everything we thought we knew about the upcoming multiversal war. It completely redefines who the real villains are and exactly how reality starts to fall apart. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking. Did Captain America really destroy the multiverse? Steve Rogers, the ultimate Boy Scout, his ending in Avengers Endgame where he finally goes back in time to get that long-awaited dance and start a beautiful family with Peggy Carter is widely considered one of the most heartwarming moments in cinematic history. But what if I told you that this exact emotional, supposedly happy ending is the very thing that triggers the collapse of reality as we know it? It sounds totally counterintuitive for Cap to be a destroyer of worlds, but the clues have been hiding in plain sight this whole time, completely recontextualizing his happy ending into the ultimate catastrophic event. To understand exactly how Steve accidentally broke reality, we've got to look back at the established rules of the multiverse. Remember John Krasinski's Reed Richards in Multiverse of Madness? He laid it out perfectly clear for us. He stated that an incursion is triggered when someone from another universe leaves a footprint. That's a fundamental law of multiverse physics right there. When a being exists in a reality they weren't originally born into, their very presence acts like an infection, causing realities to eventually collide and completely annihilate one another. So by choosing to stay on a timeline that wasn't his own, Steve Rogers didn't just retire, he unwittingly planted a ticking time bomb at the very foundation of that universe. Take a really close look at the visual details we've got right here, because the Doomsday promo footage connects the dots perfectly. On one hand, we get a glimpse of Steve's peaceful new life, a branch timeline where he and Peggy actually have a baby. But on the other hand, the footage shows us something absolutely chilling. We see Loki fully decked out in his Time Variance Authority agent gear from the early seasons, complete with his ID badge, standing inside a house. And if you look closely at the production design and the whole aesthetic of the room Loki is standing in, it perfectly matches the vintage mid-century vibe of Steve and Peggy's home. Make no mistake about it, Loki was there.
Okay, piecing together what actually went down in that house is where this story gets totally wild. We know the TVA's standard operating procedure. A massive branch timeline created by an Avenger settling down and having a kid, that would instantly light up their monitors. The TVA absolutely targeted Steve's new family for pruning. But here is the massive theory that ties this all together. During his time as an agent, while he was desperately hopping through time looking for a solution to the Kang problem, Loki went completely off book. He intercepted the TVA strike team. He couldn't just let Captain America's family be brutally erased from existence. So, in a massive secret intervention, Loki helped Steve, Peggy, and their baby escape the TVA's radar by dropping them into a completely different universe.
And that universe wasn't just some random void in space and time. No, Loki banished Steve to Earth 828. For those of you deeply entrenched in the comic and cinematic lore, you know exactly what that number signifies. Earth 828 is the cinematic home of the Fantastic Four. Loki genuinely thought he was giving Steve a safe haven, a reality where his family could survive far away from the pruning sticks of the Time Variance Authority. But by placing Steve on Earth 828, Loki inadvertently armed the very incursion bomb that Reed Richards warned us about. He saved a family but doomed a universe. Which brings us directly to one of the most jaw-dropping shots in the new footage. We see Thor looking absolutely stunned, coming face-to-face with Steve Rogers. But they aren't just catching up on Earth. They are on a highly advanced ship that is clearly bearing the insignia of the Fantastic Four. Steve didn't just wander onto that ship by accident. Mr. Fantastic, being the smartest man alive, undoubtedly used his advanced technology to track the decay of his multiverse. He traced the cosmic rot directly back to its source, finding the exact alien footprint that was causing his reality to collapse. He found Steve Rogers. So let's break down exactly why these specific realities are being drawn together like magnets into this spectacular apocalyptic event. The trailer clearly shows 3 distinct Earths colliding in a massive triple incursion. First up, we have Earth 616, the main anchor timeline. Then we have the X-Men universe, which is being pulled into the collision because Monica Rambeau crossed over and left her alien footprint there at the end of the Marvels. And finally, the Fantastic Four's Earth, which is decaying and colliding entirely because Loki dropped Steve Rogers right into its lap. What we are seeing is 3 distinct universes, all destabilized by heroes crossing boundaries they were never ever meant to cross. Now this inevitably leads us to the ultimate open loop of this entire mystery. If Loki is now the god of stories, literally sitting at the end of time, physically holding the strands of the multiverse together with his bare hands, why doesn't he just stop this? Why doesn't he just wave his hand, reach right down into the timeline, and prevent this triple incursion from happening before it even starts? How can an all-powerful being, arguably the absolute strongest entity in the entire franchise right now, be completely powerless to fix his own tragic mistake?
To answer that, we have to trace the inescapable butterfly effect of Loki's entire existence. Look at how perfectly these dominoes fall. Step 1. Back in 2012, an angry Hulk takes the stairs and knocks the Tesseract right into Loki's feet, allowing him to escape. Step 2. This variant of Loki is immediately arrested by the TVA. Step 3. During his time as a TVA agent, he secretly helps Steve Rogers escape to Earth 828 to save his family. And finally, Step 4. The culmination of his incredible journey leads him to sacrifice his own freedom to become the god of stories. Every single one of these steps is fundamentally required for the next one to occur. Which brings us to the ultimate heartbreaking paradox. We are all puppets of our own past decisions, and Loki is no exception here. If the god of stories reaches back into time and stops his past TVA agent self from helping Steve Rogers just to prevent the incursion, he alters the very timeline of his own redemption. Breaking that exact chain of events means he never learns the profound lessons required to ascend to the throne. If he fixes the mistake, he erases his own godhood. The multiverse immediately fractures without him, and he loses the ability to hold reality together entirely. He is completely trapped by his own benevolence. Okay, so if Loki is paralyzed by a devastating time paradox, and Captain America is the accidental trigger for universal collapse, what does this mean for the man whose name is literally on the title of the movie? How exactly does Doctor Doom fit into this tangled web of heroes making catastrophic mistakes? The answer to that question completely redefines the entire upcoming conflict, shifting it from just another standard comic book battle to something intensely, brutally personal. Because here is Doom's true motivation mapped out. Steve and Loki's secret pact directly caused the incursion that is actively destroying Earth 828. Because of this multiversal rot, Dr. Doom is forced to watch his family, his people, and his entire planet literally turn to ash. This isn't just about conquering for the sake of being evil. This is a deeply personal vendetta. Doom targets Steve and Loki specifically for revenge. And more importantly, having witnessed the absolute chaos that free will and branching timelines can cause, Doom seeks absolute, iron-fisted control over all of reality just so an incursion threat can never happen again. He wants to lock down the multiverse so nobody can ever step out of line. And this brilliant realization reveals the deep thematic irony of the entire multiverse saga. We've spent years waiting for a big bad villain to step out of the shadows and break reality. But the truth is entirely different. Multiverse chaos isn't born from villains twirling their mustaches in secret lairs. It's born from our heroes. It is born from their deeply personal, highly emotional, and occasionally selfish choices. The greatest threats to reality are actually the people trying to save it. Just look at the track record we've seen so far. Every single major multiversal disaster traces back to a beloved hero putting their personal desires above the safety of reality. Peter Parker couldn't handle his friends not getting into college, so he asked Doctor Strange to cast a memory spell that literally fractured the sky in No Way Home. Wanda Maximoff experienced unbearable grief, leading to a violent, universe-hopping hunt for her children in Multiverse of Madness. And now, we see that Steve Rogers' deeply human, perfectly understandable desire to retire in the past and finally get his dance with Peggy has doomed entire realities to a fiery incursion. When you step back and look at the timeline from a macro perspective, you really start to see a terrifying pattern emerge. In 2012, the master plan is seemingly set into motion with the Avengers time heist. In 2023, the heroes consistently break reality through their own emotional vulnerabilities. And at the end of time, a solitary being sits on a throne, watching it all play out in a massive, unbreakable loop. It makes you wonder who the true puppet master really is, and if this chaotic decay was exactly what was designed to happen all along. Are they fighting a war? Or are they all just playing their parts in a script written eons ago? I want to leave you with this chilling quote from He Who Remains, right before Sylvie struck the fatal blow. He looked at them, smiled, and promised, "We'll end up right back here." If Loki's hands are tied by a paradox, and Doom's violent rise is completely justified by the hero's mistakes, the entire system is fundamentally broken. If Loki fails, or if he tries to change his past to save Steve's universe, his grip fails, and Kang's infinitely more dangerous variants will simply return to power anyway. It is a brilliant, terrifying checkmate.
I want to know exactly how you think our heroes can possibly escape this impossible loop, so make sure you drop your own theories down in the comments, and I will see you in the next explainer.